What's good? What's good? What's good, man? We back in the building. It's your boy Beanie, aka Emerald Thoughts, man, aka your favorite casual. We back in here with an interesting conversation, something a little bit more deeper than our average talk and combos that we have on here. I mean, sometimes we get a little deep, so y'all know how I get on here. But um, had a conversation that got sparked on Twitter based on ignorance just being stacked on ignorance, and it led me to a series of conclusions of I need to come to I need to get into a conversation with and get into this, especially after getting into some more Dan Calloway videos, just watching it, fact checking a lot of the stuff that I did as well and was talking about. But outside of that, man, why do they hate when black people call themselves Native American? It's kind of crazy to think that people really just don't understand history, to be honest, bro. And understanding where everything ultimately comes from, bro. At the end of the day, I think, you could say all this stuff is assumption. There's a lot of facts that we're gonna talk about as well, but when you start to go back millions of years, like when the pyramids was created, we don't have the history on that. We don't have the facts on that. But the one thing I'll say is, I think this planet, for the most part, was dominated by black people. And as time progressed, you get albinos, you get lighter skinned people, due to just being in a, let's say they just, like they say, you move away from the equator, so you get lighter skin over the years. That person mixed with another person, you keep mixing with light skinned people. Over thousands to millions of years, you get the white race. I think that's where everything comes from. I think all people come from black people, um, or melanated people. Let's just say melanated people. And I think the even the conversation of is a melanated person African, is a melanated person Mexican, is a melanated person Japanese is utterly stupid, because at the end of the day, that's just based on where you're at the moment or where you were born at, but this doesn't really necessarily get into your lineage. You could be born in Japan and you're Japanese, like that just is what it is. But at the end of the day, you come from a certain root, and that's the same with everybody. Y'all all come back from African, or technically African, but at the end of the day, it's just melanated, and that's how I look at it. And I think when you look back and understand we've been here for millions of years, and we have technology that honestly a lot of people still can't haven't discovered and fathom to this day. When you look at the pyramids and how those were constructed, when you look at some of the pottery that was just back in the day and how they had a straight edge, like it's literally a flat angle, zero, no curve, 0 degrees, and to be able to do that with human hands is damn near impossible. So they had to have a certain level, or even machinery is damn near impossible. You literally have to have like laser technology to be able to do certain stuff like that. So just understanding these type of principles and understanding where, like listening to Joe Rogan recently, how there's Egyptian artifacts being found in the Grand Canyons. There are supposedly Egyptian pyramids in America. Like there's with the same type of writings and scripts and all that stuff. So I think black people and been here before biblical times, like pollinating and traversing the world. And honestly, it's really not that hard to fathom, bro. It's really not that hard to fathom. And when you get into it, I think not even a thing. When you look at the migration patterns of humans, everybody came from Africa. Then they went to Asia, and then supposedly they came to America through the Bering Strait and all that different stuff. But it all originated from one place. And I think at the end of the day, we're all African, technically, at the end of the day. And I think that's what a lot of people don't want to get into, that there's no way that white people can exist without coming from black people. It just is what it is. And sometimes that make certain black people uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. You can't get black from white. You only can get white from black. Let's just be real. When it comes to genetics, there is no two white people ever in this planet created a black child. Vice versa, there's two black people in this planet that can create a white child. And if that mutation keeps going on and merging with other people, that will make whoever they have their baby with lighter than what they're probably normally, or if not even albino. So when you get into those type of conversations, and then even what's like blonde hair, blue eyes, that's kind of low key albino characteristics, and not necessarily a normal genetic makeup. And reason I'm getting into all this is because we got, like I said, a conversation where it was ignorance stacked on top of ignorance. And I don't understand how it's so hard for people to fathom. If you have melanin in your fucking skin, bro, 9 times out of 10, bro, you're going to have some type of African descent in you. Because that's the only way you can get melanin, bro. Like, I know they love to say melanin comes from being by the sun. That is not fucking true. White people can be by the sun as long as they want. There's no more melanin coming into their skin. They're just going to keep getting sunburned and sunburned. They're going to become rednecks at best. But they won't become melanated. It just will not happen. If you have melanin in your skin, you could get darker. If you have melanin in your skin, I guess it's a certain amount of melanin in your skin, you can start to have a tan versus being peeled and shit like that. And it's white people that actually have melanin. That's why Italians used to be called niggas. That's just why it was another group of people that used to be called niggas that was, South Africans. Like, they were called niggas, even though they were white. Because you still can have melanin as a white person, but then you have those white people that have pretty much no melanin. They have melanin. You can't have no melanin, but damn near not enough melanin to create a visible dark tint. All right, so trying to see where this conversation started at. Let me find out this nigga deleted this conversation. Oh, what a bitch. Nah, there's no way. There's no way that bro argued with me all day yesterday just for him to backtrack. Okay, this is where it started from. In reality, a black man makes a stupid comment and you come for all of us. If you knew history, the Moors owned multiple vessels doing the same thing the dumb black dude did. Not know what you're talking about. Yeah, bro, deleted his shit. Post from account no longer exists. So now I can't even see what the nigga said, bro. Nigga didn't even stand on what he said, bro. I argued with this nigga all day, bro, for him to delete his fucking thread, bro. What a pussy, bro. That shit just pissed me off. I didn't even realize that shit, bro. Nigga was standing on, bro, this nigga was doing all that talking, bro. All that back and forth just to delete what you said, bro. It's so pussy, bro. That was damn near, I was just gonna use that thread as the pretty much the summary to this conversation. Because a lot of his rebuttals is what I wanted to get into, but I'll try to remember it off the top of the dome. Some of the things he was pretty much saying was like, black people never was in America until slavery. And my rebuttal was that's not true. And his rebuttal was, we never had boats. We never been able to travel. We used to live in huts. We didn't even know astrology and all that dumb shit. And then I pull up Massa Musa, had 2,000 fleets. He sailed west. If he sailed west with 2,000 fleets, what 2,000% more than what Columbus sailed with? You don't think that nigga found anything on the west? Are you fucking stupid? And then he also said we didn't have boats. That's why I brought up the Moors. I'm like, the Moors did have boats that sailed the Atlantic. I mean, not the Atlantic Ocean, but the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea, bitch. And if you can sail those fucking things, which are Arabian Sea and I think they're not as choppy and shit like that, but if you can sail those with your boats, 9 times out of 10, the physics is pretty much the same, where you're going to be able to sail the ocean because you're literally in a fucking ocean with nothing around you, bro. Like, if there's a storm in the Indian Ocean, you're cooked just like in any other ocean. So that's kind of where it started off of and where we kind of got into, but I'm like, That's just inaccurate. And then that's when I start getting into like the pyramids and stuff like that. Like, bro, Egyptians were way more technologically advanced than you think. Even the Polynesians, like the Polynesians was like literally cross-pollinating multiple islands. And where did the Polynesian people come from? Africa. They migrated from Africa. So that's when I looked up, okay, what was the first human in America? They said 30,000 years ago with the Paleo Indians and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, well, where the fuck did the Paleo Indians come from? They came from Africa. And over years, Africa and China had a lot of commerce and built a lot of relationships together and had a lot of commingling. Similar to the thing that's going on today, which is all kind of funny. So with that being said, the China population was always mixed with black population in general, or that Indian, whatever you want to call it, because it wasn't even technically Chinese people. They were Indian at the time, and those Indians had migrated from Africa over a certain amount of time. Then you get after that, the Bering Strait, they crossed through the Bering Strait to come here. So you think those people were all white people. You think them were all fair-skinned, light-skinned people. You don't think none of those people that came, the 30,000 people, because it was the Pacific something ocean migration, something like that. Pacific Ocean migration or something like that. Stuff I post all of this shit, which we would have been able to find if his ass didn't delete shit. What a bitch, bro. So, or maybe I can go to my replies and I can see just everything I said, because I'm not finding everything on my post. But so yeah, like I said, with that 30,000 people, like I said, if you already know that Africa was a part of populating everything in China, if all the people that came from China moved to America, you're gonna have melanated people. And maybe you don't call them Africans anymore. Maybe that's the semantics to me, but at the end of the day, they came from melanated people. They were descendants of melanated people that came over here. And then that gets into the conversation of what I was talking about, like, bro, we're Native Americans. We've been here. Like, and a lot of our history's been changed and lied about. And he was like, nah, y'all all came over here through boat. Let's just think about economics, bro. And we're gonna get into this video I want to watch after that. But I was trying to give an intro before a while I got into this. Just think about economics. So let's just think about economics. America was completely cultivated, not cultivated in the sense that you might think of that word, but completely occupied was the word by Native Americans. Now, do you think, just realistically, they're going to travel back and forth to bring fucking Africans over here that's going to die by the thousand, have disease that you have to feed on a voyage for them to fucking live, or capture the fucking people that's already in America and just enslave them? You tell me what's more economical. Let's, first of all, sail down to Africa, because there's not Africans in Europe at this time, supposedly. Let's sail to South America. Let's sail to Cape Town, where they have these what you call it, the ports where we were mass exodus out of Africa, right? But you can't find any ships. You can't find any of those type of real documentation of a lot of those, evidence of those things that they said happened, even though you can find evidence of all type of shit from back in those times. But you can't find any slave ships any fucking way. Then you go into the, like I said, the economical just stupidity. Already you got to sail across the seas. That takes a lot of planning, a lot of meticulous saving, money, resources, food. Got to be smart. It's not that easy to cross the ocean. Not only you're going to cross the ocean, you're going to come from north to south of Africa, where most of the storms are fucking created. Then you're going to follow the hurricane path, which most storms travel, and bring hundreds of thousands of Africans over to America instead of taking advantage of all these Native Americans. So let's just see Native American population in 16th century, because that's what this map was of. Native American population in the 16th century, particularly after European contact, experienced a dramatic decline, likely due to disease, conflict, and estimated pre-contact population ranging from 50 million to over 100 million. So now let's look at this. How many slaves were brought from Africa? I just need y'all to put y'all thinking caps on. So you got 12.5 million Africans that transported from transatlantic instead of just getting, because you got to also think, even in the transatlantic, I mean, not transatlantic, even when you talk about Haiti, Mexico, nigga, you had Aztecs, you had plenty of native people there. Why the fuck would you keep bringing Africans when you already got native people that they were trying to conquer and did conquer? It took over from Columbus to this. So Columbus came in the 1500s, early 1500s or something like that. By the time he died, his brother came around. I didn't even know Columbus had a brother that was still on the same type of shit. Then they started bringing crusaders and shit. They took over Mexico and South America by over 120 years. But they took over Mexico City within, like, I want to say 10 or less than that or something like that. But even in that amount of time, that's a pretty fast amount of time when you consider, like, you're literally destroying nations and shit like that. And I think the white lie that gets told, because it's not a white lie, but I'm saying like an actual white person lie, is that most Native Americans died to disease. They didn't. They rechanged their senses and became black people and colored people. That's really what I genuinely think happened. I'm sure some people may have died to some type of disease and stuff like that, but that's also just, to me, Native Americans were decent at medicine. Native Americans was decent when it comes to herb health and natural practices. Maybe it could have wiped them all the way out. I don't fucking know. But I do think that's where the lie comes in at. They didn't kill us all. They couldn't possibly fucking do that. But over time, they slowly pretty much captured us. And over time, we became slaves. That's what I really believe happened. But with that all being said, let me see if there's anything else in the replies, and then we're gonna get into some actual Dan Calloway video. Yeah, so this is the guy. He must have blocked me. Let me see. What is bitch ass? What a waste of fucking space. What happened? What a fucking waste of space. The account doesn't exist or I'm blocked. That's hilarious. That's utterly hilarious. All right, so let me just see if I missed any of the conversation I had before we get into the Dan Calloway. In reality, black. No, I already said that. So then you go to the one drop rule. We talk about assimilation, stuff like that. Oh, and I talked about this too. So the last resistance of the Seminoles, the Chickasaw Nation tribe or whatever, was in Florida and like that little Georgia region, all the way kind of going up to like a little past Georgia. Like we still had dominated that, and we was having a lot of back and forth battles with the American 13 colonies, or I think it was still 13 colonies at that point. So, was it? I might be tripping. But we were still battling with whatever America was at that point. And after a certain point, the resistance started to fall. We got a lot weaker, and they moved us to Oklahoma. That's where you get the Indian Removal Act. In the Removal Act, I actually looked at my family. We was in that, and we moved from here, I think, to Oklahoma, then I think to Louisiana or some shit like that. But when you look at the history of that, during the Oklahoma, when they were moving to Oklahoma, a lot of the tribe members and stuff like that flee back to Florida, and also move they just pretty much scattered throughout the South. As they was on the trail, they just started running away and making homes, I guess, wherever, they landed, but for the most part, it was along the trail. So you're gonna get when you look at the trail, it went from Florida to Mississippi through what else we got over there? Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas, all that type of stuff, and that's where literally most black people exist still to this day in America. And wouldn't it be funny when you look up the history of the Oklahoma Trail or the Trail of Tears, how people escaped from the Trail of Tears and repopulated the South? When you look around, I don't see a bunch of Native Americans. I see a lot of black people. So that's like the little shit that is like, just look around. And then think about this. Only 70 years after 1906, you get the Black Tulsa. So 70 years after most of the Native Americans was moved to Oklahoma, you get Black Tulsa, which is in Oklahoma. Like, I guess people don't tie that together. Like, you think in those 70 years it was Native Americans working, coming up with shit, and through time they got pretty much reclassified to black? Because there was a lot of black and Native Americans. If you look up, did Black Tulsa, because no one ever told me Black Tulsa had Native Americans. I had to look it up. And my bad, I am not looking at comments right now, because I'm just trying to stay on track. Yes, many black residents of Tulsa had Native American ancestry, particularly from the 5 tribes: Cherokee, Chickasaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole. Wow. Don't that match exactly what would make sense? Because those are the same tribes that got removed in the Native American Removal Act. Literally. I think at least 2 or 3 of these tribes were a part of it. I know the Choctaw and Seminoles for a fact. Think maybe the Cherokee as well. So when you just do those type of critical thinking, and then when you about to tie in some of the stuff that Dan Calloway say about how the census forced us to change and stuff like that, bro, it shit gets really shiesty. And then you already know how much black history already been deleted and hid from us. During the Native American Removal Act, I already kind of got into that. Then assimilation. And then not even only assimilation, bro, literally, I want to say in the start of the 1900s or end of 1800s, when Native Americans were starting to get benefits for all the stuff that had happened to them, white people literally started signing up as Native Americans, which caused more confusion, would cause more whitewashing of what black people and black melanated Native American people was going through. But yeah, man, if you think the Egyptians could create pyramids but didn't populate the earth, I think you're pretty stupid. I ain't gonna lie to you. Let's just see. One more thing. And when you want to talk about the whitewashing of black people's history, bro, it's insane. It's fucking insane, bro. So where are you getting these highly melanated people from without there being any African descent in them? Obviously, genetics, facial features, and stuff like that are going to change, and some people are going to look more Spanish. Some people may look a little more Aztec. Some people may look like this guy looks like a regular uncle that I see all the time. Some people going to look more a little Italian, like this guy looks kind of like an Italian or mafia or something like that. But that's just a part of genetics. That's going to change regardless. Facial structures, all that type of stuff, that's just going to change regardless. Even I think when you look at certain tribes was known to have certain facial structures. And I think Native Americans could look at a person's face and knew exactly what tribe they was coming from. I seen that in The Revenant. The boy was dead. The dude looked at his face and he was like, this is a Chickasaw boy, just by looking at him. But you don't get these highly melanated, bro. Like, that look like Uncle Roger, bro. What are we talking about? Then you go here. Here's the African Registry. You got Chickasaw, Seminole. So these are, let's just kind of zoom in. They look a little pale. It's kind of hard to see. Let's see if you give us a zoom in. So Chickasaw, Chickasaw, I guess they look a little black. Cherokee look a little black. See, the Seminole here look light skinned, But shit, I can pull up plenty of dark skinned Seminoles. So and that's the thing too, bro. Like it's no different. It's no different, bro. Like Chickasaw or African or whatever the fuck, you can have white Africans. Like you can have light skinned Africans. You can have light skinned Mexicans. You can have dark skinned Mexicans. But that melanin speaks to African descent, no matter how you slice it, bro. And it being intertwined into y'all biology some way or another. Like look at these people. Like that look like cousin Tia. Like what are we talking about? Well, you looking at older pictures or newer? Like, bro, these let's just say Chattanooga News, Black Indian African descent, and most people gonna be like, well, that's because of slavery. Like, bro, these you can find pictures that's before slavery. What's this pictures even before slavery? I might be lying. I don't know if it was pictures before slavery. Low key. Let me see. When was pictures created? Now I gotta fact check myself. 1826. So technically no. So you could technically say all of these are due to slavery and stuff like that, but bro, you'll be lying to yourself. All right. Even let's just be real. The same principles that the natives do in Africa, they do a lot of the same shit in America. Like when they was doing their tribal like dances and all these different like the things they chose to wear, the lifestyle that they chose to live by, living off the land. Like a lot of the stuff that they do all just show like a certain connected mindset to me that just shows a culture that's been passed down. Let's get into this Dan Calloway real quick. Let me roll me a blunt. Just got off work, but I've been wanting to talk about this for a little minute. Matter of fact, this is one thing we could quickly look at. With smart security and this is one example of how, like I said, black or melanated people been around way before slavery. Like I said, well, you look at the Polynesians, they were traveling by boat. Look at the Moors, they were traveling by boat. You look at Mansa Musa traveling by boat. And that wasn't even nowhere near the times of Egyptians. So imagine what we was doing even before that. If Mansa Musa was able to create that amount of wealth, and he's the richest guy that we know, the Egyptian, let's just say, when do people most historians, I don't know how many fucking years ago that was. Between 47,000. Huh. All right, I might ask one more question. All right, so this is what's interesting. This would be what's interesting. They telling us 47,000 years ago they believed that it was created, which don't make sense because of the technology that they had at that phase of time just doesn't match it. But, and also, there's water erosions on the pyramids, well, at least that's what some researchers say, that there's actual water pyramids that look like it's erosion from an ocean, or to some degree. And I'm just looking at when the last time was an ocean. They say almost 35 million years ago. I don't know. I'm just saying, If y'all don't think we couldn't, let's just even say it's 47,000 years. Travel the Earth in that amount of time, even though we could build pyramids or some type of, even if we just don't understand the technology they had back then. You don't think they traveled the world as well? Like, just open your mind. But let me see. Dan Calloway, he actually versus people. I might have to look into that. No, my bad. We're just doing this real quick.
Items that nobody can see, and then that's the end of it. Yeah, but what? He finds a deserted city in the caves, and all these tunnels and caverns go everywhere, and he's trying to map everything. He comes out, and he goes back to town, and he gathers together a group that we're gonna go find this stuff again, and people are excited about it. And a couple of weeks go by, and everyone's gathered to go on the expedition. He never shows. The expedition goes nowhere, and that's really the last we've heard of it.
Really? And is there any photographs or anything? No.
There never is.
Yeah, I was arguing with him yesterday. I just seen your message. I wasn't looking at the. My phone was charged. I'm trying to let my shit charge.
The story is the fact that you actually can't go there.
It's charged.
Just the idea that there's an area where the military is protecting people from being foolish. That doesn't make any sense.
Nobody asks why.
Right.
Like, nobody asks why. It really bothers me about that story and all of these, whether it's disclosure or whatever. I don't hear anyone asking why. Well, they won't let us. Well, who's they?
Right.
Someone's in charge of stuff that's not the president,
right,
or Congress. So who is it? So
is it possible there's some sort of a government installation down there somewhere?
It's all going to be woo-woo conspiracy stuff, or it's real. Or G.E. Kincaid found something, and someone got to him.
But if G.E. Kincaid found something, why would they want to hide some ancient civilization discovery, particularly in the early 1900s?
Because they don't want black people to know their power. It's the same story of ants. And this is what it gets into. Why they don't want us to know that we're Native Americans. Why they don't want us to know that we're the indigenous people of these lands. Because that starts to tell a certain story. And what that story tells is that we've been divided, that all melanated people are the same type of people, whether you're Native American, whether you're an Indian dark-skinned motherfucker, whether you're a Mexican dark-skinned, whether you're a Chinese dark-skinned, whether you're a Japanese dark-skinned, even if you could speak the language or not, you're still a melanated being, which is the original source. And if you listen to some biblical stuff, we're the original source of humanity. And we have a lot of power. We have a lot of connection to God. We have a lot of history that's been hidden from us. That we have a lot of things that's just been distorted and fucked up. And if we knew the truth, if we start to go back and uncover our truths, our old cultures, all the different things that was done to us, and we could look at it on a world level instead of like, oh, well, this happened to the Africans over here. This happened to the Australian, forget what the people in Australia name was, the Tasmanian people. That happened to them over there. What else? Obviously, the apartheid and all the stuff that happened in Africa, and that happened to them, but that was them over there. Jewish people, or the so-called real Jews, the black Jews, and how we got taken out and stuff like that in the Bible, and how they was enslaving us then. All these different things, if we was just able to tie and link those things together, it starts to tell a bigger story. It starts to tell that they're really trying to hide so much from us, from even like Jesus is black. Like it gets that deep. Like, nigga, they'll tell you it was a white, like, obviously, like I said, there could be white Jews, there could be white Africans, there could be white whatever. But let's just be real. In all odds, most likely Jesus was black in that era. But what they do, they whitewash it, so you just lose your connectivity to God, you lose your connectivity to this earth. Like, bro, you lose your so much, bro. The technology we found, the medicines we used to use, the herbal practices we used to be on, like Like literally, bro. Think about Native American principle, bro. Like they used to use like every part of the bone. They used to, and think about how we cook still to this day, bro. We make chitlins. What is soul food, bro? Literally, what Native Americans did in practice, bro. Use every part of the body. We gonna use the guts, nigga. We gonna use the root, tooth, boot. Like we using everything, the feet, everything, bro. When you talk about a country black person, bro, we eating the pig feet. We're eating the pig tail. We're eating the pig cheek. We're eating the pig ears. All that. What is that? What does that embody? What Native Americans used to do. We're eating everything. And then when we're done with that, we're going to carve this bitch out and make it a rug. Nigga, that's what black people do. Even to the plastic bags in our fucking fridge, that everybody got in their damn cabinets. Nigga, it just get to a point where, bro, we try to be as efficient and use everything as possible. When I look at a white person eat, you're like, oh, you eat like a white person. You leave meat on your bone. You ain't eating a gristle. You eat chicken like a black person, nigga. You left it only the bones, nigga. And then you're gonna feed them bones to your dogs. Like that's what black people do. And that's what Native Americans used to do as well. And it's not a coincidence that we have similar practices and cultures that just, if you don't really break it down, you can't see the intertwinedness, but bro, it's right there in front of your face. Literally, our food is called soul food, bro, because we could take anything and everything and make something out of it. Why? Because we were connected to this land more different than anybody else, bro. That's why we still connected to this land more different than anybody else. And we are really the leaders of this place. They follow us when it comes to music, when it comes to technology, when it comes to everything, bro. Black people are killing this shit, bro. And a lot of this shit be stolen greatness from us. Let's just be real. Let's just be real. When it comes to even political conversations, if the black people, they gotta try to get black people to agree with it. And if we don't, nigga, they gotta guilt trip us. Like, bro, like, black people are the Truman Show, bro. Everything around us, I'll stick to black people because it's deeper shit you can get into. But literally, right behind you, bro. They watch us. They know sometimes more about us than we know about ourselves when it comes to our greatness, our decision makings, and why we make certain decisions. And it really is sad, bro. But people find it amusing. White people go to the hood, watch our way of life, try to be friends with us just so they could get a taste of excitement. Look at our life as entertainment. Look at us as like, bro, but it's more to it. Obviously, that could look as like oppression, but it's more to it because it's our greatness at the same time, shining through. But if we knew the whole truth and nothing but the truth, it'll shine even stronger.
Like why? For what reason?
I don't know why Graham Hancock is marginalized now.
Right, but that wouldn't you think that there's like less of a grip on that stuff in the 1900s and
Yes.
early 1900s?
I would think so.
No, and that's because of what you talk about. It was the most important time was in the early 1900s was to delete and get rid of information. And even before that, bro, I think Rome was known for blowing and burning, not blowing shit up, but burning libraries. If you look at Egyptian, like they literally like shot the Sphinx nose off his face. Like people throughout history has understood you need to in order to destroy a tribe or a culture, you got to also disconnect and destroy what they came from. You can't give them any revenant or piece of what they used to have because that piece could be literally the spark that keeps them connected to that culture, no matter how little or how small it is. And that's why it's always been so important to whitewash us. That's why it's so important not to have Jesus as black. Because even if we had Jesus as black, that little bit of faith of like, man, God's son is black, so it must be some God, like something. Like it'd be something that may just tick a little different. And it still does, just because we have God, and that's still that ultimate, that connection, whether you're black or white, it still helps. But they will go through every exhaustive measure, bro, to make sure you don't have really any representation of positive shit, any representation of what you used to come from. And like I said, it's really crazy.
So my guess
when you
would
really
be
get into it,
treasure
bro.
And money. That would be my guess. Is it shows.
And to answer his question, he's wrong. He said that why would they be so in a rush to cover this up? It's not because of money. It's because of power. It's not because of treasure. It's because of power and controlling people that you need to control. Because at the end of the day, if black people decide to rise up against whoever the fuck it was, no matter what the numbers are, it's not gonna look great. It's not gonna look great. I'm trying to tell you, bro, we do shit different. It's very similar to the story in the Bible. When them motherfuckers came together, they blew that horn and the walls fell. Bro, shit will get really spooky for them. They don't want us discovering our energy. They don't want us coming together. Just like the Million Man March. They don't want that type of shit, bro. A million us together, whether we fought or not, nigga, y'all in trouble because it's gonna be a tough out, boy. Unless you just nuke us, but besides that, like, it's gonna be a tough out, bro.
Goes up in the paper. The government goes down there.
And they do not want us to rise up.
Grab it, send it to the Smithsonian, who keeps 99% of the stuff under wraps. They have, a billion items that nobody can see, and then that's the end of it.
A billion artifacts that no one can see.
I would love to know the official reason. See if you can Google. Is there an official reason why you're not allowed to go to certain areas of the Grand Canyon?
They use a VPN there, brother.
The story, I was looking at an article about the original article, and it says that the two guys mentioned might not have even existed.
Right.
There's no evidence of them.
G.E. Kincaid?
And
Right.
another guy named S.A. Jordan.
And see, that's what they do. They'll delete you from history completely. But regardless of that, if you just think about it, reverse engineer it, well, if they was never alive, that means there's no one protecting the Grand Canyon either. Because whatever they discovered obviously sparked some type of response to where people are protecting that area. So it's either or. Like, but they are definitely protecting the area. It's literally people that's been arrested and stuff like that from at least this guy's account. So it's clear that you can't cross over there and go over there. So why? When it's technically a public access, and all they could say is technically it's for safety or some shit. It's crazy.
Story that someone printed? Some horse shit?
When I was looking into one of these things before, I found something explaining that back.
Meta, how can I get my 2-year-old eat his breakfast?
He likes it when you make silly faces.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, but he persistently missed packages.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Right.
What's up?
The thing I found about the Egyptians in Ohio was actually from a paper that was written. It's postulating it. I guess they took a lot of the evidence that they had been finding and saying this shows that there might have actually been Egyptians there.
What's from 1937?
That's when the guy was, I think, born. This is 40 years ago.
Oh,
so
wow.
That amulet was brass, apparently, and it was found near Cincinnati. And where I actually think that it might have been trade routes, because there was some, like, stones that have been found in various parts of the world that are from specifically Ohio.
Like, bro, people have no fucking idea how much this world has changed, and that gets into my flat Earth conversation. Or it really didn't even fucking matter with flat Earth, but at least the giant tree and how it used to be giant trees, and similar to our Avatar, I think there was either a war or some type of seasonal change that destroyed the planet and destroyed those huge trees that pretty much changed the whole environment and ecosystem of the planet. Just you think about it, like when you think about South America, how lush it is with life because of the rainforest and how that colonies create the humidity, which creates constant abundance of rain. So think about when you have those huge trees of life like Jack and the Beanstalk type trees, how things were just different back then. And the reason I get into that, bro, we have fucking stone men lined up perfectly just sitting in the fucking ocean. Who the fuck did that? Like, bro, we don't I mean, obviously Stonehenge, people say Stonehenge is, like, who did Stone? Like, bro, I don't think a lot of people understand how different and how long we've been on this earth just doing shit.
Because it's like a rainbow shale that was used in like arrowheads and stuff a long, long time ago. Like that area was used to make weapons, like the first like 12,000 years ago when the first people were kind of in North America. But that area in Ohio also is known as the sandstone capital of the world, and I don't know if that's related to the Egyptians, 'cause that's what the pyramids are made out of. There's tons of sandstone that is very specific to that region.
Yeah.
So
Pyramids made out of sandstone?
I thought so. Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard this,
There's
yeah.
21 from 1800 to 1980.
Them not the
21
ones I'm talking
times
about.
the amount of sandstone that made the Great Pyramid was shipped out of Ohio to make various buildings all over the world.
Really?
Most of them in the United States, obviously, but all over the place.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, just weird
This-
facts I found after Graham came
History
through.
of the humans.
We don't know history.
We know some. All
The
right?
only history that we know is the one we go discover on our own time. The one that's presented to us is not history. It's all lies.
Well, it's not all lies.
All of it.
There's some lies.
I found that too. I didn't
Lost civilization in Grand Canyon was Egypt.
No, I think it's Allah Shakur. He's definitely right when he says this. I think we definitely went back in evolution as well, and I think it was some type of war. I think it was some type of something that caused the mass destruction and reshaped the earth how we know it, and we are still rebuilding. We're still rebuilding from those times. I just honestly believe that, like, but even when he's saying all lies, bro, it is like when electricity was discovered is a lie. Like when when he said the first person to discover electricity is what, Benjamin Franklin, that is a fucking lie, bro. Like when you look at, I think it's called Mesopotamia or something. Not Mesopotamia, no, that's the shit that you're talking about in Mexico. I'm gonna have to look it up, but it's about this old world, and you can find old buildings that's like it's just extremely weird, and they have certain like foundational things, like they'll have like copper antennas that float to the top of the what's the name, and it's like a stone structure that's been here for hundreds of years, but supposedly we didn't have lights and stuff like that, but the way that they used to do it was more how Tesla fuck with things, and how he had was able to tap into electricity through the atmosphere and stuff like that. That's the type of energy we used to use. Now we use this like line wire type things where it's really not that efficient. When you talk about humanity's evolution, we could get a lot better, especially when you talk about Tesla already and discovered that shit years ago. So when we talk about lies, bro, and I couldn't tell you where they start, from religion, like the people that call themselves Jews. I already talked about Jesus being white. Possibly even the earth that we live on could be a fucking lie. Bro, the lies, the universe could be a fucking lie. I'm trying to think of what other some other things that I have found out to be fundamental lies. The economy is a fucking lie. It's something that they pretend to make us believe that we need, but in reality, bro, this shit is all fake. The value system of what money is, all this shit is fake. It's literally not even backed on anything anymore. Like, bro, all that shit is fake, and manipulated. I'm trying to think what honestly, bro, the media, news, lies. Origin stories of how we got to this place, lies. Dinosaurs might be lies. Like, bro, I'm just thinking, like, bro, there is a lot of things about history. Like, you can really point at it's like, bro, a lot of this shit is not truthful.
Egyptian?
Yeah, the Smithsonian published some stuff.
Especially
in 1909,
past,
I guess, that where all this came from.
500
The article
years.
Got written, and I don't know how much of it they proved or was proven or was just newspaper. It's like
Whoa.
bait back in the day.
Look at this.
kind of,
Even
but-
more amazing, the artifact didn't match up to anything on the known record. Rather than appearing to be of Native American origin, as one might expect, the object had distinct Egyptian or Tibetan designs. Could there have been an entire civilization of Egyptians living here? If so, how did they get here?
The same way all the other people from America got here. They migrated. It's that simple, bro. Just like how the people got to Polynesia. They migrated. Just like how people got to Hawaii, they migrated. And that's the thing. You think people did all this traveling, got to Hawaii, and never went past Hawaii? Like, come on, bro. I literally just seen a nigga on a sailboat, just a genuine sailboat, nothing sophisticated. It had a, I want to say like a 10, 12, 13 foot sailboat. He sailed from California to Hawaii.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's not that hard.
I think it took him a week. And you think these niggas that sail from, come on, like, bro. I just don't think people really take the time to think about this type of stuff. Is this the guy? I think this might be the guy. This guy sailed the whole Pacific boat. I mean, the Pacific with a sailboat. So, in reality, bro, I just don't think people really understood how far humans came before, I guess, even like biblical times. Because a lot of the stuff I'm talking about happened before biblical times. Biblically, I think, like they said, that shit happened like, the biblical timeline is 6,000 years. But that don't match the human timeline by any means. Biblical, if I'm not mistaken. The idea of a 6,000 year timeline in Bible refers to the concept that human history was created to end of the world is divided into 6,000 years, followed by 1,000-year millennial kingdom. So I don't even know if it's a complete 6,000. But yeah, and then like I say, if you talk about humans before that, it's been 30. We've been when was human? Let's see when humans really was. When was humans first around? So we've been around over 300,000 years ago. Modern humans are believed to have emerged around 300 years ago in Africa. That era began approximately 66 million. Wait, what? Oh, my bad. Human first appeared during the Oh, okay. I get it now. Specifically, I don't know how to say those words, which are part of a larger Neogene period that began approximately 66 million years ago. And this is if you believe in, you gotta believe in, I think, revolution or evolution a little bit as well. But regardless, they say they believe humans to be emerged 300,000 years ago. And then up to 30,000 years ago, we was migrating heavily. Humans first migration. I'm just curious, but I'm just asking questions at this point. Houston first, humans first migration. The first human migration saw early humans, including Homo erectus and later Homo sapiens, leaving Africa, spreading across the globe. Homo erectus began migrating out of Africa around 1.8 million years ago, reaching parts. Okay, I guess the Homo erectus is technically not a human. So I'm curious. I just make this statement. If you don't believe in evolution, maybe you could argue humans been around even longer than that, and they just are lying and like not really telling us the truth about how long we really been here. We could have technically been here over 2 million years. Like, that could be possibly crazy. But like I said, that's if you believe in evolution. Because if you believe in evolution, then it's like, okay, we changed from monkeys to this to that, and it took a long amount of time. But if you don't believe in evolution and you don't think 2 million years from now the monkeys now was going to become humans or something, like, it's just like, I'm just being funny. But if you don't believe in evolution and you don't believe that we changed from monkeys, if they're saying that they could find human type skeletons back in the day, that'd be interesting. Especially 1.8 million years ago. I'm sure our skulls and shit was different. Well, what if our brains were still working fine? What if we still was able to create? We just looked the hella different. It's just interesting. Because that made me think about, like, the different types of people that they said was out here before. Like, I remember they said it was like a midget colony that used to exist. Obviously, they say it used to be giants and stuff like that. I wonder, bro. Because 1.8 million years for humans to exist would be very interesting. That's a lot of uncovered history that we'll be missing. But even then, if you go to the 300,000 years, that's interesting as well. I don't think we get into that enough as far as history. But we start migrating. Let's see. So modern humans, the Homo sapiens, then emerged from Africa 200,000 years ago, and began migrating around 100,000 years ago, eventually reaching Asia, Australia, and the Americans. I will need to see the timeline of that. All right, so this is just the path that everything was took, how it was taken. It's a little blurry. Let me see if I can find something better. Oops. Yeah, I mean, watching this, I completely cooked that nigga. Like, bro, it's not even a conversation. Just look at the route that everything took, and you don't think, like, you literally can't say everything didn't come from Africa. You literally can't say it. It's impossible. All these maps are fucking ugly. They've been lied about everything. Yeah, it's been a long list of lies. Yeah, nothing we can really. It sucks. We can't zoom into it as much as I would like to. But the reason I went to this one, because this one shows how they was traveling the ocean as well. So came from Australia down to, I think that might be New Zealand down there. I think, I'm not 100% sure. Oh no, my bad. I went from Australia, then you went to like the Philippine area. And then from there, they went to a lot of these islands, migrated a lot of these islands, traveled from island to island. And then from there, they go up to Hawaii from these different connections of islands. So that's a lot of traveling. And then same through here, and then all the way almost to South Africa. And South America, excuse me. And then you go through here, obviously, say, like I said, what they said, the Bering Strait. Everything starts in Africa. It's not that hard to fathom. And through genetics, through mutations, over time, white people mutated. And as I said, even when you think about the idea of the perfect white person is blonde hair, blue eye. Like, bro, that screams albino. This is the best one we've seen. Can I get a big screen? Big screen, excuse me. Oh, and they look like it has something I want to read too. Okay, this is beautiful. So 200,000 years ago, Africa. Then you get to the number 2. That was about 70 to 50,000 years ago. Then you can go to the 4 route. That's 35,000 years ago. Then you go 3 and 5. That's around 35,000, 45,000 as well. So around 5 and 4, that happened down there at the same time. And then if you look at 3, us being in Australia and us being in, I guess that's like Ethiopian region of Africa, if I'm not mistaken. When we start to go to like the left side of Africa, I think that's around the same amount of time as well. So we was in Australia around the same time we was colonizing and migrating to the. That just speaks to how big fucking Africa is too, if you think about it. Then you get out of. So you go through Iraq, you go through the Middle East, that go up to Europe, and then you also cut through India and go up through China and Russia. And let's see, so around, like I said, around 5 and 4, that was both around 35,000 years ago. And then when they start to go down to the Polynesians and Philippines, I believe that, it's not the Polynesians, it's something I'm saying wrong. The Philippines for sure area, that was about 35,000 years ago. So that's a long ass time ago, bro. And I feel like a lot of history we're not talking about. And I feel like they make it seem like it was all Stone Age, like we wasn't really doing shit. Like, I would be interested to see, like, because most of these was, I think, Indian tribes moving around and stuff. Like, was it just the day-to-day just Indian lifestyle? Like, or was they actually cultivating shit? Because like I said, it was Egyptians. You got shit in the pyramids and shit. So it's like, at some point, bro, people had technology. It wasn't like we was without. And then you find Egyptian artifacts in North America, like we were just looking at Cincinnati. You find them in the Grand Canyon. Like, bro, that's crazy. So then you go to the Bering Strait, which is at 6, which is very interesting, bro. We got through North America pretty fucking fast. Either we got through North America and South America pretty fast. Either that's vindicative of technology and us moving a lot quicker, or how small North America and South America is compared to the East. Because when you just look at that, 15,000 years ago, we was at the Bering Strait all the way down to South America. That happened pretty fucking fast. Only a 3,000 year kind of distant difference when compared to some, I feel like, similar regions in time. Or maybe it was just less people that traveled too, so it helped them move faster. Because I think the thickness of these, what's the names is for a reason. So that's all cool shit, honestly. If you ask me, amazing to know. So with that being said, let that finish that up.
You got cats that leave Africa and try to come to Spain on these places on a chicken wing.
Yeah.
You know?
It is interesting, right? Like the population of Cuba. Cuba's so insanely diverse, and it's right there. Like, what is the history of that other than the slave routes? Like, what is the history of Cuba? Because Cuba has very distinct African people living there.
Mm-hmm. The whole Caribbean, all that whole area is has a lot of African roots to it. But it's just a place that was conquered by the Spain, by the Cortezes, those type of people.
What really disturbs me is there's no way to know exactly what happened. It's like you're piecing things together based on artifacts and historical record, things that people wrote down, and journals and logs, and it's
Well, there's people that have traveled. So, again, I've studied this so long ago, but I remember reading primary source from somebody that traveled with Cristobal Colon, aka Christopher Columbus. And he was saying very specific things about his accounts when he reached these different places. You know, and he was saying things like, we got to the land and we found Africans. And I remember.
I'm gonna let him go back to that. So, the reason I'm looking up Atlantis because if you know the Emerald Tablets, something I studied, it's supposed to be like that tablets was supposed to be created around the pyramids time. That's when they dated, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look it up. We're just having good convo at this point. Emerald Tablets. Dated? Okay. The Emerald Tablets is a mythical text, a tribute to Hermes, let me see, legendary ancient, was known a Latin version date back to the 12th century, excuse me. The text is believed to have been compiled in Arabic in the 8th and 9th century. Some interpret the text like the Emerald Tablets, and Thoth of the Atlantean claims even older origins dating back 36,000 years. That's interesting. Because the reason I'm saying this is because most religions get, especially Christian religion, get their information from the Emerald Tablets. Emerald Tablets was created almost 36,000 years ago, arguably maybe around the same time the pyramids were created. But what's crazy is it talks about Atlantis in the Emerald Tablets, so that don't make sense. Based on what I was just looking up, according to the writings of Plato, Atlantis was destroyed, they say, almost 12,000 years ago. So let's just say the Emerald Tablets was written after this, whenever Atlantis happened, arguably 12,000 years ago. We seen what we were doing 12,000 years ago. We were already in America and South America 12,000 years ago. Atlantis was supposed to have like certain technology and stuff like that. So if that's true, and Atlantis is only 12,000 years old, that means humans had technology not that long ago. Honestly. Just based on the timeline of how humans have migrated. 12,000 years ago wasn't that long ago. But they'll make it seem like 12,000 years ago, humans had no sophistication. But that's interesting.
I remember him specifically saying, reading.
But I wanted to go back to what he said about when Columbus landed in the Caribbean.
I've traveled. So, again, I've studied this so long ago, but I remember reading primary source from somebody that traveled with Cristobal Colon, aka Christopher Columbus. And he was saying very specific things about his accounts when he reached these different places. You know, and he was saying things like, we got to the land and we found Africans. And I remember him specifically saying, so no matter where we go, we find Africans. And he said it as if he was disappointed. And then they started talking about, like, you know, they started talking about their culture and describing their culture. You just got to go look at the people that travel with Cristobal Colon, and there's some firsthand accounts there, and they're very honest about it, you know.
And if you go look at a lot of tribes still to this day, bro, they still are most times dark-skinned people, bro. They're not fair-skinned people like that. Like, and it just makes me think when I look at when I look at around the world, because I see people go all across the world. I be watching these food shows or things like that kind of go to these like random tribes, and they don't even be in Africa. Like, bro, it be black people everywhere I go, bro. I mean, everywhere I see. And that just also helped me draw that same conclusion that Christopher Columbus did. Everywhere you go, bro, there's black people. And it wasn't because of some slavery transported them there. The only argument you could really say that about is America. Every other place, bro, you know why Africans are there, bro, because they migrated. Even with, like, the Tasmanian people. When the fuck did they get there? When... And this is the people that's next to Australia. I don't know how to fucking spell Australia. Something like that. The Tasmanian Aboriginal people migrated to Tasmania, the peninsula connected to the mainland of Australia, from the mainland of Australia around 40,000 years ago. This migration occurred in a period when lower sea levels connected two landmass and the connection was eventually severed. Rising the tides, rising the levels, isolating Tasmania and the inhabitants. So over 40,000 years ago, they was already in Australia. And obviously, they try to make it seem like they try to make it seem like the only way they was going to get there is by walking. I'm sure they had boats and shit then, bro. Honestly. But maybe they didn't, and it was just all walking. But I think that's to diminish the skills, because what was so different between them and the Polynesians? Oh shit. Polynesian sail exploration began thousands of years ago. Bitch, I said when. Early exploration, 3,000. Polynesian ancestors likely originated from Taiwan, migrated through the islands. South Asia. Early exploration around 30,000 years. I mean 30. I meant to say 3,000. So maybe when and this is all based on the lies that they tell us. Like I said, bro, ain't no way pyramids were created. We ain't have no boats. Like, it just don't make sense. So that was 10,000 years ago. First boats was likely created.
Dude, I'm going to look into that now. That's very interesting. I'm going to ask Graham about that, too, what he knows about it. He's studied, especially on his latest book, he studied a lot about the various cultures that made it to North America and South America.
Okay, yeah, it's just very rich in history. Very, very rich in history.
Now I'm going to get some Darren Calloway. I'm going to skip through this because I kind of already watched this, but there's some good conversation in this. get to the good points.
And tell me if you find
Shiner Light Blonde. 99 calories. How Texas does light.
I had to modify this video from its original version in hopes that you may be able to see it this time around. So let's.
And where were you? And what did you have? What was? What language did you speak then? 20 million black people don't even know their own language. Why? Because he took it away from them. 20 million black people who don't even know the history of their ancestors. Why? Because he took it away from them. And if you try and tell them how thoroughly and completely they've been robbed, he says you're teaching hate. Dark people who have been oppressed and exploited by those who are not their own kind, strangers. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy. Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. You never find a white aborigine. Rather, aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are aborigines, but you don't like to be called an aborigine. You want to be called an American. Aborigine actually means from the beginning. It's two Latin words. Ab meaning from, origine meaning the beginning. Ab meaning from, origine meaning the beginning. Ab meaning from, origine meaning the beginning. Ab meaning from, origine meaning the beginning.
Now, in today's society of America, millions of so-called African Americans are struggling to come to grips with their true identity, culture, heritage, and history, mainly due to the numerous manipulative tactics utilized to govern their critical thinking mechanisms and to also decimate their literacy capabilities. Each one of these manipulative social engineering experiments can only be detected and detached from one's subconscious when standing outside of the box. I'll let you ponder on what's happening to those that are still inside of it. Meanwhile, you have not and will not ever hear me promote any form of religion throughout any of my content that I present to the public. Reason being is due to religion, faith, and beliefs being based on one's personal relationships. And I am not here to debate nor argue about who you should or should not love. That's simply none of my business. So let's also be sure to not confuse the truth that I present throughout my content with any personal beliefs that you may have. Now in this segment, you will learn about who you truly are and where you really came from based on truthful information. Because mind you, there is a big difference between truth and facts. Facts are merely controversial information, whereas a person bears the opinion to debate its credibility or not. That's yet another form of belief. Whereas the truth is non-debatable due to its credibility of always making logical sense. This is why in today's society, most people don't even care about the truth. Why? Well, because to them, unfortunately, a lie is more entertaining. So now let's start with March 1st, 1790, when then President George Washington and Vice President John Adams, along with Speaker of the House Frederick Muhlenberg, signed the 1790 Census Act. According to the census itself, It states that the 1790 Census Act is a law that, quote, required that every household be visited, that completed census schedules be posted in 2 of the most public places within each jurisdiction, there to remain for the inspection of all concerned, and that the aggregate amount of each description of persons for every district be transmitted to the president. So let me point out that some households, not all, were visited by these individuals entitled as census enumerators, also known as census takers, who are technically federal government unsupervised employees.
This
who
shit huge right
allegedly
here.
went from town to town, city to city, and door to door, deciding who was of what race, and then documented the family they meet as such. So you mean to tell me that these census takers were provided instructions by way of the government to document and record the ethnic category of various family members based on their perception of the family when they visited? And their opinions were considered to be official historical records of information? Even though they did not count every individual living within the United States due to the multiple indigenous Niji raids and rebellions occurring during this time period, the alleged first official census of the entire United States was implemented on a day dubbed as Census Day on August 2nd, 1790. See, now, what's very important to note here is that the, quote, free people of color.
That was only 14 years after Declaration too, so that's pretty interesting how quick they start to get into I guess like the eugenics and stuff like that.
Were recorded all in one group. And also note that it states free and not freed, as if they were freed people from some form of enslavement. I go into more detail about the census labels in the documentary that I'll link above right now. But I said all of that for a particular reason, and that is the official 1790 U.S. Census population count was a total of 3,929,214 people. But keep in mind that this total amount did not reflect millions of people who were indigenous to North America, aka Turtle Island, meaning they did not come from another continent, nor did it reflect the accurate total amount of so-called slaves in North America. Why? Well, the U.S. Census Agency themselves admitted to not possessing the majority of their official historical records of information that was allegedly documented between the 1790 U.S. Census and all the way up to the 1830 U.S. Census. And their excuse was to claim that these records were lost or destroyed somehow. See, this was all purposely done for 2 reasons. A, to hide the truth about the real history surrounding the U.S. and slavery. I mean, generally speaking, you can literally prove to yourself that your ancestors were slaves or not by documentation. You can check and see if your ancestors came off a boat. I've been sharing this information publicly for years now, along with my sources.
Now, even with the census stuff, I looked into that when I first started watching him, and he was actually correct. When you go back and look at my census and my family census, they, at a certain point, when the census first started, we were classifying as mulatto or something like that. And how that was a new term that they created for people to reclassify from Native American and stuff like that. But I would urge a lot of people to do their research because it's very interesting. And like I said, that's how I found out my people also was moved in the Indian Removal Act as well.
Freedmen once their obligations of servitude expired. Make no mistake, when you hear the term freedman from now on, freedman does not necessarily mean that he or she was freed from enslavement, because it can also mean relieved from their duties in most commonly known cases. So this first reason to allegedly lose or destroy these records was to hide the truth that it was a very small amount of copper-colored slaves and a greater amount of prisoners of war in North America. And the second reason is B, to hide the truth about who are the real minority and majority in terms of the population count here in the United States of America. In which this brings me to my very next point. The biggest portion of their agenda was the abominable sabotaging of the indigenous Niji's history, legacy, languages, culture, and heritage systematically. So of course they couldn't pull this task off on their own. So they implemented a methodology format based solely on the scientific concepts of eugenics.
I don't know, that's how you spell it.
According to the National Archives, the term eugenics was coined by a British natural scientist and explorer named Francis Galton in the year of 1883. Now, there are two sides to every coin, so I'll be sure to flip each side over, and I'm not theoretically speaking here. Eugenics was implemented to help improve one selected group of people and their future generations to come, to overtake and oversee yet another set group of people and their future generations by way of extermination of their mindsets. This rabbit hole goes much deeper than one may assume. Allow me to simplify the explanation of this paramount method utilized by the likes of your industrialized institutions throughout America still to this very day. Eugenics literally changes everything that any person was ever taught of or even thought of previously before this selection was carried out upon him or her. According to Francis Galton himself, this system, than one may assume. Allow me to simplify the explanation of this paramount method utilized by the likes of your industrialized institutions throughout America still to this very day. Eugenics literally changes everything that any person was ever taught of or even thought of previously before this selection was carried out upon him or her. According to Francis Galton himself, this system would allow, quote, more suitable races or strains of blood.
I'm just curious of why they separated. So, primitive. The nose, the eyebrows.
America still to this very day.
So this looks like, I'm not even trying to be funny or anything like that. Obviously, you see black people kind of like that from time to time. But kind of like Spanish, Greek looking kind of guy. Then you go to the next one.
Institutions throughout America still to this very day.
Like I said, I seen black people that look like that, but this gives Spanish. This gives kind of like Indian, maybe a little Middle Eastern kind of vibe.
Eugenics literally changes everything.
They still say African, whatever. It's still like a version of African. They look like some type of version of Australia's. Like I'm just like maybe like, is that I guess like some type of region? Is that name somewhere, some type of based on their region? Let's say Australia, you got the ski, and then you got the ski, African ski. I don't know.
Any person was ever taught of or even thought of previously before this selection was carried out upon him or her.
And then you got the ones that look like a traditional black person, not so much. He kind of like an African, but kind of get a mix of that African black person look, and they just put nigger, Niger or whatever. One of the different ways to pronounce nigga, essentially.
According to Francis Galton
Niger
himself,
or whatever.
This system would allow, quote,
I don't know how to say that
more
shit.
suitable races or strains of blood a better chance of prevailing speedily over the less suitable, end quote. Galton was heavily influenced by the likes of an English naturalist, biologist, and the first ever self-proclaimed documented bigoted genealogist, Charles Darwin. Darwin single-handedly developed the
and I had no idea how fucked up Charles Darwin was, like, especially in school. Like, you taught Like he's literally stuff that's preached in school, and no one would ever tell you he also practiced like I guess like racial theory or some shit like that, or race theory.
Controversial theory of human evolution, which was his belief that man came from monkeys, and then his system of natural selection, which included a heavy flux of racial derogatory.
I dare you to let me build you a completely free
It's 1859. That's when Charles Darwin introduced Origin of Species by natural selection and the favored human races. Did you know that today they only report half the title that Charles Darwin wrote? His title had to do with favored human races, assigning supremacy to the Aryan race, all others being inferior.
I'm just curious. So yeah, 5 major races. Somebody must be moving or something. It's interesting.
How many knew that? Only a handful. His book was racist, and that was the basic purpose for writing it.
During the early 1900s, the social engineering aspect of Darwin's theory became popular worldwide amongst many scientists alike, high-ranking politicians, and it even caught the eye of the elitists. More about this in the second installment concerning this topic. But I mention all of this to inform you that they played a prominent role in elevating the advancement of eugenics, specifically for the sake of their own race, disguised as if this was for the benefit of all humanity at a cost of whatever they desired. They were religiously following this formula or rule, dubbing it as survival of the fittest.
And this go all the way into the eugenics go all the way into so much shit, bro. It go into Henrietta Lacks and stuff like that, and like some of like just the black genetics and DNA and some of the stuff that's encoded in there. And if they told us the truth about our DNA, oh my God, bro, it's so much stuff that we could unlock as far as potential, like certain herbs or certain natural things to take that could, bro, it's certain shit, bro, that honestly speak to us probably being here. Like I said, if you get rid of this evolution theory right here, right, and we was really here millions of years, that would make sense why you could have a Henrietta Lacks type of gene. Like we've mutated, we created, we've dealt with so many different things to a point where, like, if you actually did test on us, bro, you'll find a lot of shit. Damn, how the fuck you say Henry? Bro, I don't even know. Because I don't want to spell it how it sound. And I can't even spell it back how it sound. Henrietta. I don't even know if I'm saying her name right. That's the problem. Let me see. Okay. I don't know. I feel like typing on my phone, I always figure it out a lot better. No, this is not it. This is not it. What the fuck is that lady's name, bro? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. African American woman who cancer cells are the source of the HeLa cell line, first immortalized human cell line. What does that mean? Immortalized cell line is population of cells from a molecular organism that would normally not proliferate indefinitely, but due to mutation have invaded normal cellular synthesis and instead keep ongoing division. So that reminds me of something that these guys damn, I can't, it's crazy that I forget people's names. But some of the spiritual guys that I follow, they'll get into like I forget something, it's something called like tether something, where those things they slowly start to degrade, just like your DNA. Like it just don't reciprocate or replicate as much anymore, and over time it just stopped replicating. Like that's just the human body in general. Like you constantly regenerating your cells. To a certain point, once you get old, your cells stop regenerating. But this type of shit, like, almost speaks to being able to live forever. But imagine doing eugenics, how much other testing and stuff that they used to do on us, bro. And that's where you get some of the stuff that they did in the army and many other different stuff where they've been testing us for a minute, bro. But like I said, that goes into like a lot of the things where it's being a lot more valuable. Or even if you look at the melanin, how much like the gram of melanin, like the melanin in your skin costs, like it's worth a lot of fucking money, bro. So when you think about a lot of these things, they keep a lot of that from us for a reason. And it's pretty crazy.
In other words, Charles Darwin's theory of human evolution was merely a way to elevate and escalate the implementation of white supremacy and to eradicate those who were of non-pale complexions, deeming it as survival of the fittest, where those who did not meet their racist criteria, motives, and agendas would suffer from a variety of forms of propaganda that was hypothesized to eliminate the opposing race of people. Eugenics is literally a modernized pseudoscience that was based merely on racial discrimination and
Johnny Manziel
injustice, socially, physically, and mentally, but became prosperous still due to its popularity of praises from those who gravitated towards inequality and racial estrangement.
Chewy has delightful creations of sound.
And it's going to the Willie Lynch as well. Them through the terms is not used, insufficient, counterproductive. Instead, he suggests that adopt methods which consist of exploiting differences such as age and skin color and pit slaves against each other. The method, he assures, his host will control the slave. Let's see what else, some stuff he said. I don't want to get into it for real. Any other time you could just pull it up. I don't feel like going to search for somebody's fucking website. let it keep playing while I'm searching.
With the enactment of the Racial Integrity
Oh, this
Act
was huge.
of Virginia's elected official. Morin stated, quote, "This is a travesty that this committee can correct. The second unique circumstance for the Virginia tribes is what they experienced at the hands of the state government during the first half of the 20th century. It has been called a paper genocide. At a time when the federal government granted Native Americans the right to vote, Virginia's elected officials adopted racially hostile laws targeted at those classes of people who did not fit into the dominant white society. The fact that some of Virginia's ruling elite claimed to be blood descendants of Pocahontas, in their view, meant that no one else in Virginia can make a claim they were Native American and a descendant of Pocahontas's people. To do so would mean that Virginia's ruling elites were what they decreed all non-whites to be, part of the inferior Negroid race. With great hypocrisy, Virginia's ruling elite pushed politics that culminated with the enactment of the Racial Integrity Act of 1924. This act directed state officials and zealots like Walter Plecker to destroy state and local courthouse records and reclassify in Orwellian fashion all non-whites as colored. It targeted Native Americans with a vengeance, denying Native Americans in Virginia their identity. To call yourself a Native American in Virginia was to risk a jail sentence of up to 1 year. End quote. Now, in this statement, he used the term Native American, but the truth is that our identities were changed not from Native American, but from Indian to colored. And they were not only jailing people in Virginia for claiming their true identity, but they were also killing them by hanging them from a tree, and in more ways than one that I won't mention, in each state across North America. The biggest bigoted, racist, white supremacist of them all was none other than Walter Ashby Plecker.
The Plecker era was truly one of the darkest times for Native people in Virginia. But I think it's critical for us to think about what was the genesis of the ideology that Plecker was a proponent of. And it's really the eugenics movement. The eugenics movement was a pseudo-scientific movement. We say pseudo-scientific today because we find that the science that they were proposing is not what we today would honor as scientific in any way. The eugenics movement has a direct link to the descendants of Charles Darwin. They somehow made the leap to these notions about racial purity. What is best for each race is
in reality, it's not science, it's a religion.
Racial purity. Plecker and his friends convinced the Virginia legislature to adopt very restrictive legislation in 1924. It's called the Racial Integrity Act. With this legislation, it was decreed that there were only two possible categories. One is white, which means a person you check that you're
and that's the thing though, like this is no different than what happened, what they say with Hitler. It just was done in a fashion that was subvert or overt. No, it's subvert, I think. Or covert, that's the word. Like it was just done in a way where through time, like Willie Lynch said, 300 years, like it's not something that's gonna be a 1 day, 2 day thing.
White, if you have white ancestry, Caucasian ancestry, and absolutely nothing else. The other category is everybody else, and that's colored. So this was very hard on Virginia's indigenous community because in a sense it wipes away their identity on paper. Their ability to describe themselves as Indian was not possible. To describe themselves as Indian was not possible.
Keep in mind that our elder family members' birth certificates were changed multiple times to state colored, Negro, mulatto, and now black or African American as their classifications of racial identity by way of the federal government systematically. So the moral of this segment is that you have been lied to by your government, your president and politicians, your news media, your school teachers, college and university professors, your public school history curriculums, multiple out of Africa theory books, and even by the very people that share the same view as you and I. And that's a whole nother story within itself. Now, I challenge each and every one of you to seriously research your mother or your grandmother or your great-grandmother.
This folklore is commonly known today as the transatlantic.
$5 at
objective. If we cannot make significant progress on racial equity, this country is doomed. It is doomed not just because of African Americans, but this country is doomed. It is doomed not just because of African Americans, but because by 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. You hear me?
He said because it's going to be minority white, not just because of the not just because of blacks, but Spanish too. So there's going to be some Indian people, but it's going to be a lot of brown people. And that's just the truth. And that's why I just think about everything comes from Africa and everything always goes back to Africa. Everything always goes back to melanated. Unless there is an attempt to try to remain pure from things. And let's just be honest, I think I might have missed something. It said a part of eugenics and the theory is the best way to maintain a race's survival is to remain pure. And in reality, that's only to maintain the whiteness, honestly. That's only for the concept of whiteness, because in reality, when you're mixing and things like that, that just ensures your survival a lot more. But in a sense of whiteness, if you don't try to make an active way to maintain it, it's going to go back to melanated over time. Just based on how dominant genetics is for black people. And over time, there are going to be white people that end up mingling with black people. And through time, if you don't stop it, if you don't make laws, or if you don't make certain propaganda or like moralistic things to where people look at it a certain way, over time, whiteness would become a minority to a point where they don't have the control or power that they used to. So that's why a lot of eugenics comes into play. This is why a lot of racism is real still to this day, or racism will always exist, because a lot of people don't want to lose that religion of whiteness, because whiteness is technically a religion. Whiteness is technically a belief. At the end of the day, you're really just a pale black person. At the end of the day. That's really, and maybe when you come biblically, I could be wrong or something like that, but when it comes to genetics, I honestly think through all the merging and stuff like that, most people that take a genetic makeup test gonna have some type of African in them. And that just speaks to where they come from or where they potentially gonna go back to. Because like I said, or what Biden was saying dominantly, because he doesn't want that. He wants to maintain whiteness. He wants to maintain white dominance, white power, white success and all that different things where they're the controllers. But if they was just to let go of that type of idea, like I said, that borderline beliefs, like, I mean, it's not a borderline belief, it is a belief, but borderline religion, that would end instantly. Like, in a matter of a couple decades, you will start to see white people be the main minority in most places where they're less than 10% of the population.
Minority white European.
Those of you that say Black Lives Matter, I feel sorry for you. Do you really believe you have a black life? Do you want me to read to you the meaning of black? Who called you black? Shouldn't you have rejected that from the beginning? A contradiction, a bundle of contradiction. Black means the absence of color. Absence of color. Absence of good. Absence of light. Absence of direction. That's the meaning of black. Black is not a color. It is the absence of color. Don't you understand it? They keep laughing at you as you call yourself black. They keep laughing at you. Open any dictionary, find out the meaning of black, and tell me if you find anything good, and you are not black.
Yeah, man, I love this conversation. Just because it gets back to the root of things. It made me start to think about just like tribes and stuff like that. Oh, they didn't even talk about saying how black people do Native American shit. Bro, we got our peace pipe all the goddamn time. You keep a peace pipe. I don't know if I can show that on, I think you can. I don't know. But how black people smoke all the time, like, that's some Native American shit. Like, well, I'm just being funny, but I would want to see, like, just maybe I just go back. I know a lot of tribal stuff, like the totem poles and stuff like that. I connect to a lot of that type of stuff. I really love the totem pole and what those really symbolize and mean. I really love that, honestly. That's one of my biggest things I take away from Native Americans. But I would wonder if there's some spiritual things that I could possibly find dealing with Native American practices or Native American, like, just knowledge that's lost, occult knowledge at this point, that I could find more with like Chickasaw or Chickasaw or Cherokees and stuff like that. When you just start to get into that this type of conversation, that's kind of where my mind starts to go. And it's raining hard still.
Entitled as census enumerators, also known as census takers, or the U.S. Marshals, who are federally government unsupervised employees that was said to have allegedly gone from town to town, city to city, and door to door, deciding who was of what race, and then documented the families they meet as such. The Marshals, or the census enumerators, had and still has a mammoth amount of influence on genealogy records. In fact, what they informally documented on a sheet of paper was literally based on their individual opinions, and then later deemed as official records that were sacrosanct, leading to hundreds of years of whatever the census takers' ideas of race were officially credited as historical facts of information. So, in simpler terms, these census takers were provided strict instructions by the government to record the ethnic category of various family members based on their perception of the family when they visited. So if you are attempting to find and interpret data about your family's history, these results can be confusing, especially if in one census your family has been recorded under the category all. This time around, the options were February 1st, 1808. Keep that in mind. These familiar terms that I just mentioned, like Negro, mulatto, and person of color, were not used as the official classifications of race on the census during this time period of 1808. In fact, just 2 years later, in 1810, there were very few adjustments made to this third census, making Indians living off of reservations now recorded in the All Others column of the census form. This time around, the options were free white, slave, and all other, in replacement for the 1790 and 1800 census option that read all other free and all other free persons. Soon after that, the War of 1812 made American history. It was a war declared by then President James Madison because of the discovery of Great Britain supporting many Indians with rebelling against white settlers squatting in America. This war between the United States and Great Britain lasted until the year 1815, and then 5 years later, the 1820 census made some critical adjustments to the classifications of race on their forms. This time, the Indians that were living off of reservations were recorded in the free colored persons category. Note that this is the very first time ever in history where the census utilizes the term colored. And other options included on the form were free whites, slaves, and then all others, except Indians not taxed. So, generally speaking, the phrase...
My damn cat tripped over the damn cord and it froze the camera. Now I can't get the camera back working. So I'm going to just end it here, man. Hope y'all do more research on stuff like this. It was a very interesting combo for sure, just based on, like I said, where we all come from and some of the roots that we got to get back connected to, honestly, because when you think about it, it's a lot of spiritual stuff that we missing. It's a lot of deep power that we missing, because when you get the real shit is when you get disconnected from your history, you really don't know who you are, essentially. Versus when you have a luscious, long history of examples, and we do still have that. Let's be real. Like, we got so many black engineers and stuff like that, but it's just, in the white society, it don't get the love that it should. Like, even with our black TV shows, we used to have so many great black TV shows. That shit just got killed over time. Anytime there's some black, even great black show, bro, I feel like it always gets killed if it's like going past certain tones that they don't like. And that reminds me of like Lovecraft Country or something like that. Like, literally got canceled first season. Or American Gods, like that shit got counted. Like, bro, that should be like the shit that really be piercing the veil, bro. They be canceling that shit quick. So, that being said, man, y'all go do some research or just keep watching me, because I'll give it to you how you need it.